last year's whole IPW was one big welcome. And that was the central message we had. And a year later, we're still working on making that a national priority, and because it's so important. More people around the world are traveling than ever before, and so many are visiting places other than the United States. The bottom line is we're falling behind our competitors. Travel is up to France. People going to France. Travel is up, going to Germany, going to China, and so many destinations. But from 2015 to 2017, the U.S. share of the global long-haul travel market has slipped from 13.6% to 11.9%. It may not sound like a lot, but that translates into about over 7 million visitors that should have come if we'd kept our share, $32 billion to the U.S. economy, and 100,000 fewer U.S. jobs. International visitation to many U.S. destinations is thriving and doing very well. Los Angeles, Miami, New York, Orlando, Seattle, just to name a few. But we'd all be doing better if U.S. had kept its share of the rapidly growing international travel market. That's why U.S. travel is banded together with 14 other major business groups in Washington and launched the Visit U.S. Coalition to address this decline in market share. The goal of the Visit U.S. Coalition is to really work together to get the White House and the administration to promote a simple but achievable idea. The U.S. should be the most secure and the most visited country in the world. I stood before you last year and said the U.S. is open for business. We know the President can use those words because he has. And we're working together with this group toward that very important goal. When the President made those comments you saw in the video, that was at the World Economic Forum, and he was talking about inviting foreign investment to the U.S. But we're hopeful he'll make it clear that he wants more business and leisure travelers also to come to the U.S., and we think he will. Because just as people invest in companies in the U.S. and et cetera, and business, investing in the U.S. is also having travelers come here because we know it's such a huge market. The Visit U.S. Coalition recently released a study that 4 out of 4 American voters agree with our core principle that we can have both robust security and healthy international visitation. Visit U.S. is promoting policies that would have an immediate and positive effect on inbound travel to the U.S., and some of those are expanding and rebranding the visa waiver program, setting goals for expanding travel visas, boosting enrollment in global entry, increasing the number of visa processing facilities worldwide, and developing criteria for 10-year visas from qualified countries. Visit U.S. also has an active role on existing and proposed policies that concern us. One of these is the so-called extreme vetting on U.S. applicants. This proposal would demand some social media and past history travel data from 14 million visa applicants. That's a vast expansion of both private data collection and probably has dubious security value because they're counting on the bad guys to be honest, and we know that sometimes the bad guys aren't honest. And it also makes the U.S. visa system perhaps unnecessarily intrusive and burdensome, and we know that anytime things are burdensome, people sometimes choose not to travel or to go elsewhere. Even a small decline in the U.S. economy, as I just said, when you saw that small decline in share, can have huge impact of billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of jobs. So that's why this is such an important issue, and we're facing our position on it as they're looking for comment right now. The Visit U.S. Coalition has also had some encouraging games with the policymakers on the political spectrum also. Well, we have a lot of work to do in pursuing pro-travel policies, and there has been some good news during the past years that's maybe flown under the radar screen. U.S. travel has been long committed to embracing the latest technology innovations and making sure that travel screening is both efficient and as effective as possible. This past year, U.S. Customs and Border Protection made great strides in pursuing new technology. This includes biometric air entry and exit technology using facial recognition to quickly identify and securely identify arriving and departing travelers. This technology is being tested on select flights in 9 major airports. More U.S. airports are also using automated passport control kiosks, which are now make eligible visa waiver program travelers to the U.S. have the ability to skip forms and also skip lines. U.S. citizens and Canadian visitors also continue to take advantage of the mobile passport control app to expedite their entry into the U.S., cutting down the wait times for all travelers. We're also thrilled to note the expansion of Trusted Traveler programs. These allow more secure and efficient travel to the U.S. Citizens of more countries are now eligible for global entry, which allows pre-vetted travelers to have expedited U.S. Customs entry process. Since this year, we've welcomed Argentina and India into global entry. Customs pre-clearance continues to grow. It's now at 15 airports in 6 countries. This allows travelers to clear U.S. Customs before even setting foot in the U.S. I had the opportunity when I went to WTM, I flew on Aer Lingus through Ireland. And what a great process it was to just clear customs in Ireland and just go directly to my next flight in the US. So that's a big thing we like. International travelers also continue to benefit from expansion of TSA PreCheck. This allows pre-screened travelers to have expedited screening on domestic flights. This year, 7 new international airlines joined TSA PreCheck, so we now have a total of 53 domestic international airlines now participating in PreCheck. So that's a big plus. I've long stated that Trusted Traveler programs, which thoroughly pre-vet travelers before they even get on a plane, are the bright future for effective security and efficient travel. And we could not be happier that our government agrees with expanding these programs. Within just the past 2 weeks, we also learned of a successful outcome of a political battle that has been going on for 3 years. That's protecting America's open skies aviation agreements. Recall, we talked last year about this and even the year before, and with several major U.S. airlines were asking the U.S. government to step in and freeze and even roll back travel from Qatar and also the United Arab Emirates. They claimed that air access from these airlines was costing and threatening U.S. aviation jobs. We strongly but politely disagree with that stance. Reducing air access is obviously bad for the U.S. economy and jobs, but our analysis even found that it even hurt jobs in the U.S. airlines. In recent weeks, we're pleased to announce the administration rejected both a freeze on new flights and rejected renegotiation of open skies agreements with Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. We're also pleased to see that our government understands international travel and gets these decisions right. Last year, our government also granted Norwegian Air final approval to fly from several European cities, a decision that was reconfirmed just 2 weeks ago by the U.S. courts. These new flights introduce several things: competition, choice, and value for U.S. flyers and from the U.S. and to and from the U.S. They'll also direct more international passengers to and through and beyond our gateways, connecting with people to new experiences in every corner of America. Our government clearly sees the value of open skies and is even adding agreements in new countries. This past year, U.S. signed an open skies agreement with Brazil, one of the highest potential inbound markets and one of our biggest markets already. The U.S. already is a top inbound destination for Brazilians. It's our largest export industry from Brazil. 1.7 million visitors spend $11 billion a year here. So our new open skies agreement with Brazil makes the future of that relationship even brighter. And I want to make no mistake, I always want to clearly state this. We want our U.S. carriers to be extraordinarily healthy. We want them to be extraordinarily profitable. We want them to grow. And in fact, they're doing all of that. But their stated goal is to go by 2%. International travel is growing by 8%. So we need to grow the pie and not just keep a small pie and try and get a bigger piece of it, and no matter what we do. So I'm very positive on our U.S. airlines, but we need airlines from around the world to really bring people here if we're going to achieve our goals. As I've said before, and it repeats saying every time I get up here, but Brand USA is here to stay. Brand USA is here to stay. You already heard yesterday from Chris Thompson that Brand USA has put out some fresh data on return on investment, and it's very exciting. Suffice to say that it's providing tremendous value marketing America around the world, the United States, and they're going to be at it well into this decade and the next decade. You can trust me. Even with all the challenges that we faced, U.S. still remains the #1 most desired destination among international travelers, according to a study by destination analysts. We want to be able to make sure we keep up and keep our share. But Congress has voted several times when it comes to Brand USA, several times by huge margins, to authorize and reauthorize Brand USA. So this latest data, I think, only increases the overwhelming support for Brand USA in Washington. I want to congratulate Chris and his team on doing a terrific job to make all those things happen. And there are two other things the industry is showing again and again, that we're incredibly resilient over hard times, and even some of the disasters we saw in this past year from storms and fires and things, how the industry has the ability to so quickly come back. But even in good times, we're never satisfied with where we are. We all work together to grow this travel market that's so important. That's why I'm so energized when I come to IPW every year and stand in front of you for the 50th IPW. It's the first time since 1991 that we've been back here in the Mile High City, and they've done just a phenomenal job, I hope you agree. And I love the line that Visit Denver has: everything is new except the Rocky Mountains. And I think that's so true. And in fact, today you can look out and see the Rocky Mountains, which is a great plus. It's beautiful, and it's so interesting when you go outside Denver of what Colorado has to offer beyond the great city we have here. A few words I'd like to say about IPW and our thoughts of IPW going forward. And I'd like to bring up the head of last year's very successful IPW in Washington, D.C., and a gentleman who's our vice chair and going to be our incoming chair, and that's Elliot Ferguson from Destination DC. Elliot.
Good morning. You know, as you listen to the comments from Roger, you can tell that the importance of the U.S. Travel Association, we need them more than ever. As we're looking at the numbers and where we are, the relevance of the U.S. Travel Association and what Roger and his team does is extremely important. And as a destination such as Washington, whereas you normally equate us with the White House or politics, it was our pleasure to be able to host the 49th IPW in our city last year. And I know a lot of the faces that are in the crowds were there last year, and we appreciate the positive comments. And we're excited to be here in Denver, not hosting, but being able to enjoy Denver and see all of you all again and talk about our destination. Now, Roger talked about how IPW got started at the luncheon yesterday. There was a committee that landed on an annual Visit USA travel sales marketing place to bring together U.S. exhibitors and international tour producers in pre-scheduled business appointments. That was the start of Discover America International Powwow, a word you can't use nowadays. And it launched the following year in 1969 at the Commodore Hotel, which is where the Grand Hyatt in New York sits today. Since that time, 23 destinations from coast to coast have had the pleasure of hosting IPW, some multiple times, and each putting their unique spin on hosting IPW in their respective cities and states. And that's what makes IPW so great. Under one roof is the best of America, small towns and large cities, attractions, hotels, and travel suppliers of all types, each all coming together to welcome travelers from all around the world to the U.S. and to our cities. And as we know, IPW is all about relationships. A few of you have been attending IPW for quite a few years, and I know during the lunch, Roger had a lot of you stand up, but we do want to recognize those specific to the media, like Mark Sheehan from Australia, who's attended IPW for 35 years. Mark, I think you're in the audience, and if you are, we'd love for you to stand up. And Vittorio Agostino from Italy, celebrating his 40th IPW. And Tony Scheffler from Mexico, celebrating his 41st. So thank you all. Tony, you don't look a day over 40, so thank you very much for coming for that many years. And so many of you have attended more than 30 IPWs, and if you're in the audience, we'd love to recognize you all as well if you'd please stand for a round of applause. Anyone who's been to 30 or more. And for us, what you all do for America and for our cities is what gives us that opportunity to dispel the perspective of travel to the U.S. and to let everyone know that we welcome international visitation to our destination. The coverage in which you all do on a regular basis is important to all of our destinations and makes a huge deal in terms of how America is perceived as a destination. And with that, a huge congratulations to Roger and his amazing team for a successful 50th IPW with many more to come. So thank you again, Roger.
Well, thank you very much, Elliot. And as you can see around the show floor, all of our destinations and travel companies are working together to keep everyone coming back to the U.S. And we value so much all that international business, but we really value the role that all of you play in telling the world about America from your perspective and your experience. So I think it's so great to have you here year after year. And I'm fully confident that we'll be around for another 50 years. IPW is going to be at some other great cities, starting those on the screen from 2019 through 2024. If there's one thing I want you to take away, and I say it over and over again, America is open for business, and you are always welcome here. We couldn't have better friends than we have in the international media, all of you here today and through the years, and our partnerships that we have all year long. And I want to thank everyone for attending today, and we'll see you next year in Anaheim. Thank you very much. I will now go to the always fun and exciting answering of questions. I will address the first question that's on your mind. I am not sick. I am doing very well. I've been working hard at this. I've lost 60 pounds, 27 kilos. Okay, so that's just out of all over. Okay. All right. So there we are. It's okay. I'm opening up to your questions. Thank you. We have one right here.
Jim Roxy, Irish Daily Mail and Irish Mail and Sunday Travel Editor. Just like to ask you, Roger, you were talking about pre-clearance in Dublin. Can you let us know if that helps in terms of visitors coming and staying in Ireland and not just using Dublin as a go-through airport?
I was just speaking to one of my very good friends from Aer Lingus just yesterday, and I was talking about, I said, in fact, on that experience, what happened is my wife and I were going to WTM, and the reason I actually flew on Aer Lingus is because I have to pay for her ticket, so I could buy a business class ticket for her. It was a little bit better price. But we were going on like a Thursday or Friday and didn't have to be in London until Monday. So what we wanted to do was stay, she Irish background and I've got a little Irish in me. So we wanted to go spend a couple of days in Ireland. When we contacted Aer Lingus, it was going to be another like $1,500 to stay overnight. And so I talked to my good friend yesterday, he said, we're working on changing that. We want to have a program that would encourage people to fly to Ireland or come back to go fly through Ireland and stay a few days and do that. And I'm watching that done very successfully. Turkish Airlines did that. Turkish Airlines came and they said, if you're flying on Turkish Air anywhere in the world, if you want to stop in Turkey and spend a few days, get back on the plane, it's not going to affect your fare. And I've seen visitation to Turkey boom because of that. So I think it'd be a very good idea. It's something I think a lot of travelers would like to do, is incorporate multiple cities when they're going from one destination to a further destination. Okay. Okay, please have, and we'll have one up front here also. Where's the next, where's the first?
Hello.
Oh, please stand up, please, friend. Oh, good to see you.
Graham McKenzie from Travel in the UK. Roger, I just wondered if the US Travel Association and their partners have considered the effect that Airbnb are having on the tourism economy, and particularly the impact on locals. We've seen it all over Europe, and particularly here now in the States, in some big cities, including DC, where locals have got upset about the lack of housing, and the general concept of over-tourism in some cities, and indeed some islands, as I was talking to Hawaii yesterday. I wonder if you've formed any opinions about that.
Sure. The travel industry is evolving all the time, and I've watched it in my career go from when we had paper boarding passes to everything electronic. I've watched the travel agencies and online travel agencies. I've seen taxis and Uber and Lyft and then Airbnb, of course. Airbnb is growing extremely rapidly, and there's a mixed message, it depends on the cities with Airbnb, and we're trying to work very hard with Airbnb, one, to play by the same rules. It's very important that for life safety, security, and things like that, that Airbnb, and taxes, paying taxes, and Airbnb is moving in that direction. But it varies from city to city as far as Airbnb and the relationship. Some cities embrace it. San Francisco is an example. San Francisco has worked very closely with Airbnb and set the guidelines on how everyone is going to operate on a level playing field, but San Francisco needs those rooms for many big conventions because they can't expand as many hotels as they would like, so Airbnb plays a very big role. I know of other cities that are saying, wait a minute, people are building apartment buildings that were going to be apartments or condos, and they're changing them to Airbnb, and they're acting like hotels, but they're not really hotels, but they're Airbnbs, and they're playing by different rules. So we're in favor, as U.S. travel, of anything that improves travel and the travel experience. And I think I often hear when it comes to low-cost airlines, people saying, well, gee, why do you talk about low cost and the reason? Because we want people to anyone can travel. There's some people that may not afford to be able to, and Airbnb may be an answer for them. But I think it's up to the hotel community, which is my counterpart, H&LA, and Airbnb to reach agreement. Airbnb does not at the present time belong to our association. In fact, we've had discussion with them, but right now there's a lot of effort, conversation go around. But right now we're supporting anything that increases travel, and we're leaving it to the different communities in the U.S. to sort out how Airbnb and them are going to work together. Yes, right in the back. Hi, Ellen. Mary, how are you doing?
Essentially American magazine UK. What is the possibility of pre-clearance from the UK, specifically from London?
That pre-clearance, the way it works is it's an agreement between the airports in London, for example, and U.S. Customs Board, and to set up and how the costs, how the space will be handled. One of the challenges you have is where will a secure space be? Pre-clearance right now is in the following places: in Ireland, Aruba, Bahamas, Bermuda, Canada, and UAE. We would love to see pre-clearance in London, but that's a matter of, and the people at CBP would like to see it expanded much further. But as I say, it takes the British government, the airports, and CBP to all work together on that. So if we had, anywhere we see pre-clearance, we're seeing the numbers go up. And we're also seeing it so much easier. So our position, we would be very supportive of that. And again, this is, CBP is working with many, many destinations to try and increase beyond just the 6 countries and the 15 airports.
Untitled Chapter, Roger. While you're violently saying that you're welcoming visitors, the background music we're hearing around the world is the administration doesn't exactly share that. The coldest part of the cold shoulder that the administration is showing is towards Spanish-speaking America and Muslim majority countries. Are they, just specifically to raise those 2 areas, which are very important if you're inbound, what are you doing to counteract that perception which is being sent around the world to those particular spheres of influence?
Yeah. What we're doing is, as you've heard with Brand USA and all of we're doing everything that we can to get that message across. I don't think there's a person here that doesn't feel extraordinarily welcome from half of the travel industry. We're also working very hard to explain and demonstrate to the industry, to the administration, that we have to have security. I mean, when they came out with different measures, we're very supportive of having strong security, because without strong security, there is no travel. I mean, after September 11th, this industry came to its knees in 1 hour, and it was devastated. The U.S. economy followed a couple of months later. The world economy followed a few months later. But the message is, you can't have a heavy-handed approach. I think you have to have a surgical data approach and do that. The other thing, and so the megaphone has been, and I'll agree, tipped towards security, which we support, but the other part of it hasn't happened. We're working very closely with in this Visit US Coalition to get that to happen. When you look at the banned countries or all that, in reality, you're talking an extraordinarily small percent of travel to the US, at least a very, very small percentage, and a minuscule percentage among that group. So again, we're saying with data and welcoming, but the noise level is loud. That said, we see around the world that people are able to separate politics and place. People around the world still want to come to see destinations, and they're able to celebrate politics and place. So it's very important, and we're very engaged in this, and we need the balanced message to be coming out, and we need to have security through data, through information, through procedures, and a heavy-handed approach often is not the best approach, and you will see us continue our dialogue to say, let's welcome all legitimate travelers, and let's be closed as tight as we can to anyone who wishes us harm, either here or around the world. Yes?
This is Sagar Aluwalia from Sapphire New Delhi. Brother, I have seen you working from the day of power, and my simple question is very simple. First thing I want to check out, you have shown me the product, the Brexit, the US travel meeting. And what are the projects you should not do? And you feel that you have missed something in your life or promoted to do?
Have we missed something?
Yeah, that's my question.
What do you think, Jonathan? We missed anything? Jonathan says no.
I said you think what you have missed that you could not do it. You have done a lot of things, you know. To the tourism of America is a hard dynamic leadership of Roger.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're working very hard, and the challenge you see also is the government has a lot of distractions going on. There's a lot of noise. We're talking with, we're talking North Korea, you're talking Iran, you're talking things going on in Israel, and right now we want to get the best timing. In fact, we're going to be working very hard to get that message across and really get the meetings. I've met with the Secretary of Commerce. I've met with the Secretary of State. I've had a brief meeting and now a meeting in the next 2 weeks with Homeland Security. And I think we've just got to get them to understand that when people come to the United States, it's probably the best that we have when public diplomacy. When we do studies that people who come to the United States feel 70-75% better about American policy than those that may not have been here. And so I keep saying, if you want to build relations around the world, we have to do that. Opportunities with India, I think we've got to work so much harder because it's such a monster market, and we've only scratched the surface for what we could have from there. Thank you, my friend.
Hi, I'd like to go back to the security issue a little bit. It's
Sure.
Obviously, you talked about a lot last year, a lot this year. You just addressed sort of speak back here. I think everybody agrees that security is good. Nobody wants to, as a visitor, fear that their security is at risk. But I don't know if this is a question or an observation, but I'm from Canada. I think a lot of international visitors are more afraid of being caught in the crossfire of domestic gun violence in the U.S. than something that may happen from somebody that slipped through the cracks. So I don't know if you can address that.
Sure.
But,
Sure. I am when it comes to guns and we talk about guns, I'm a parent like everyone else. I get concerned, about the safety of my children, whether they're now out of school, but when they're in school. And when we see the horrific things that have happened with huge media coverage that they should have, and these incidents have happened, concern us greatly. What happened in Las Vegas concerns us greatly. That said, our whole mission is increased travel to and within the United States. And I'm staying right in my lane here. There's a lot of dialogue that is going on, about guns around the world, and there's many sides and positions on it, of whether having folks that might have security people that are armed, is that good, is that bad, and so that's what's going on, but it's outside our lane, and so what we want to do is just say we must have a secure place. And it's not just secure at the airports or getting on a plane, it's secure wherever you travel. And we've seen the negative effects that's happened when you look at Turkey. Travel in Turkey has been devastated by a few incidences that happened. You looked at how the harm that you saw in France and Brussels through some incidents that happened there. And we haven't heard it loud from folks of traveling saying, I'm not coming to the U.S. because I'm concerned about things associated with guns, violence, whatever. But it's an issue that's going on, and some resolution is going to happen. But as I say, my lane, our lane, is keep Americans safe coming to this country and get more people coming and stay with growing travel. But I do understand it's a dialogue that's going on not only here but around the world. Yes.
Good morning, Roger.
Morning.
Kevin Dixon, McCarthy Travel Planners Radio. You had mentioned talking about pass-through travel from different destinations. The evening before we came to IPW, WOW Airlines just initiated service nonstop from St. Louis to Reykjavik with the possibility of a layover there. And then this December they'll go on to Delhi, India from St. Louis. But is that decision made by the airline or the external country's governmental process?
Both. It is made by some have processes in place, like we have process in the U.S. in place that a foreign carrier can bring travelers here, but they can't move on to another city in the U.S. And that goes on around the world, and that's been around since, it's an old shipping, it goes back that far. So those spots of someone coming from St. Louis to Reykjavik or wherever is usually an airline decision and sometimes a country decision. So some rules they may have in place that govern whether you can land in another country. We're very in favor of that. As I've said, I've stated a couple of examples where I've seen that tremendously increased travel. I often get frustrated, if I'm going to Asia and I may be just going to China, but I'd like to go, to Singapore or somewhere else. And if I could find an airline that would say, you can stop here, stay a couple days, and go there, and your ticket price would be relatively the same, I think it would be a boon for travel around the world and also for the U.S. But it's usually the airline in conjunction with rules with that particular government that can decide whether they can do that or not. We have one right here in the center. Whoever has microphone there, Brittany, thanks. Right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. I would like to refer them to visit U.S. coalition efforts with the policy administration. And regarding the importance of tourism to the U.S. economy, do you believe that the policy administration perceives this importance as you stated before?
I actually believe that most administrations do not understand this. We went through this with the Bush administration. We went through it with the Obama administration. When President Obama first came in to be president, 2 weeks into his presidency, he said, you can't go to Las Vegas to the Super Bowl on the taxpayer's dime. And it kind of tanked the MICE business in the U.S. because not just him, but the rest of the media and Congress piled on. And we started explaining how travel is related to so many other things, and he got it and really became a great proponent of growing travel goals, of getting more visas, all sorts of things. And we have to do the same thing here because our administration wants to grow GDP much faster than it has by 3% or more. And we keep saying to them the way you're going to grow GDP by 3% more is through the travel industry. There's a lot of talk in the United States about when manufacturing jobs come back. There was an announcement Toyota is going to their plant in a state in Alabama, and it's 4,000 jobs. Amazon, as you're all familiar with Amazon, announced they're going to have a new headquarters, a second one in the U.S. or maybe Canada, but somewhere in North America. That's 50,000 jobs. And we just say that little bit of loss in share is the equivalent of 25 manufacturing plants, or 2 Amazon headquarters, and you don't even have to build it. The national parks are there, the hotels are there. So what we've done is we're beginning to, our rhetoric with the government is beginning to talk about what goes on and how travel is the front door to economic development. And numbers our team has just put together, when it comes to what travel-related, manufacturing, $409 billion, financial services, $123 billion, healthcare, $82 billion, real estate. I asked the National Association of Realtors in America, I said, do you have any idea how many people that live outside the United States own real estate in the United States? They said, oh yes, we just did a study. $52 billion a year of U.S. real estate is bought by people from other countries who may only come here for 2 weeks, maybe for 6 weeks or whatever, and what a boon that is to the real estate market. So we're trying to do a much better job of getting the government administration to know this is your link. No one ever bought a second home, no one ever retired somewhere, no one ever built a company somewhere unless they traveled there first. And we're trying to let them know we are the front door to economic development. Way beyond the fun that we all have in travel and tourism, way beyond that, we're serious business when it comes to building an economy. Thank you.
I know that aging transportation infrastructure, especially airports, is a concern. Can you discuss the resolutions to that?
Yes. The infrastructure issue is a very big concern because when it's difficult for people to travel somewhere, it impedes travel and whether they'll make a decision to come here. The U.S. highway system, it was basically built in the Eisenhower years, and it really fueled the U.S. economy as people could travel everywhere and just beyond boats and trains and it fueled it, and so it was the factor. If you trace growth of the U.S. Economy, it was all travel. It was all based on infrastructure. We kind of fell asleep a little bit. And when it comes to growing and improving our infrastructure, let's talk about airports. We had, 25 years ago, we had the top, arguably among the top 20 airports in the world, we probably had at least 50% or more of them. This year, when you rate different airports, we don't even rate among the top 20 sometimes in global airports. I'm seeing Middle East, Asia, Europe, some new airports, South America that are being built that are spectacular, world class. So we've got to improve those airports. The challenge we have is one, the investment that it takes and the time that it takes, and also the citizens around the airport. I think I've been hearing about the Heathrow additional runway since before I was born. And it goes on that long. Well, the same thing in Chicago. So the ability to improve the infrastructure from an airport standpoint is critical and important. We're seeing airports that are growing tremendously. Orlando, Miami, Tampa, this airport in Denver, LA, San Francisco, some big projects, but we have to even get more up to speed. Well, that's just a piece of it. Now we've got to be able to get people into the airport. When you look at some of our airports, if you go to LaGuardia Airport in New York, or perhaps LA Airport, they have a very limited feed into the airport, and so the traffic congestion. So they've got to solve that. And there's a lot of train systems that are being developed. This city is one of the premiers of having the train system that goes right from the airport right into the city, which is a huge one, but it's also a plus for employees. I happen to be an advisory board with this great airport here in Denver, and one of the great things, it's taken about 10,000 employees off the roads, and they travel this way because it's cheaper, it's more efficient. Well, that just makes it easier for travelers to get here. We had a great discussion yesterday with our group from Las Vegas on hyperlink. And the discussion was, we should be thinking even further beyond just rails. We should be thinking about what could you do with Elon Musk and Virgin and companies are looking at of these tubes that people could travel in. And it's used to be fantasy I'd watch on cartoons and science fiction. I think it's now very close to reality. And I think we're going to get those solutions. If we don't, we're locked. We cannot grow the travel industry. I asked our head of our chief economist, I said, what would happen if we got from 76 million to 100 million visitors How many more travelers a day would that mean for Kennedy, LA? And she said Kennedy, probably another 5,000 a day. Miami, LA, 4,000. It's hard to imagine how the throughput with not only the airport, but the CBP and all that, when you talk 4,000 and 5,000. So we have to solve it, or it will be the pinch point that will shut off U.S. travel and not go further. So it's critical, but we have to make it a high priority. These things take a long time. You don't improve it overnight. And we're getting more and more dialogue. The administration is talking about this, but we have to get Congress to take some action on it. Okay, I'm told that I'll take this last question right here. Thank you very much.
Hello, Roger. Peter Eoghan, freelance, long-time attendee. This year, there are no official figures being given out for visitation to the US. And I understand it's because the National Travel and Tourism Office can't get the official statistics because there's been a wrong procedure, or when travellers have been entering the United States, they haven't been classified necessarily as visitors, some have been classified as US residents. How much of a problem is that for you when you're trying to argue the case for more money, for more investment, when you can't even quantify how many visitors are coming to the States?
Yeah, and that is a challenge. As you mentioned, the National Travel and Tourism Office suspended a month or two ago of releasing data because we were looking at the data, and the data was saying that travel in the U.S., international inbound travel, was down 4 to 6%. And yet we were going around and talking to our destinations, as I mentioned several, and they're saying, no, it's flat, it's up 1%, it's up 2%. I said, this isn't making sense. And then we went to Expedia, Sabre, Airline Reporting System, STR, and many other sources to find out what was going on. And we found out there was a difference going on, and that's what led us to the conversation with both Commerce and DHS, who gets the initial numbers, and that's why they froze it. The issue, there is a glitch, and you mentioned, they think the difficulty is in the system of inbound foreign visitors being counted as U.S. returning citizens. There's a glitch in how they counted them, and it was evident because in 2016 the number of inbound U.S. citizens went up by 300 and some percent, and we said that can't be possible. So what has happened is Commerce put a freeze on putting the numbers out. They're working, we're working very hard with them. They have a goal of fixing this very rapidly, and that could be probably within the next 6 months. But you asked what a problem is? It is a problem, because everything we deal with on business policy, dealing with the opinion makers and all that, relies on solid data. People have said, well, why don't you just do your own data? Well, then that's no good, because then we have our own data and Commerce data and someone else's data. The thing is, get the data right. So it's a high priority for Homeland Security and Commerce to get this fixed. It will be fixed by the end of the year, and we'll be back with putting the numbers out. But not having those numbers is a challenge for us, because people, if you don't have accurate numbers, then people say, you're just making them up. So it's a big issue. Commerce is addressing it, and we're working closely with them to see that we get that fixed fast. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. My team's around.